Hey everyone, this is chess coach Aaron, and I'm here to bring you three spicy openings. I say the word spicy because spicy in chess to me means fun, complicated maybe, and exciting. But these are for beginners initially, so I'm not going to go too deep into these openings at all, actually. And the three openings I want to talk about are number one, the Danish Gambit, number two, the Scotch Gambit, and number three, the Evans Gambit. So this is for beginners against when they play e4 against e5, e4, e5, and this is kind of the starting spot. Why does someone play a gambit? Well, usually in the openings, the beginning of a game, you play a gambit in order to offer your opponent a pawn and you try to get something for it. Faster piece development, good attacks, control of the center, etc. You want to get something they call compensation, something back in return that you like. All right, let's go to the first one. Let's go to the Danish Gambit. Let's see what we got. Okay, with the Danish Gambit, we play e4, we make three pieces happier. And they play the same thing, e5, and now we have three pieces happier. Queen, bishop, even a knight's got a new place to go. But with the Danish Gambit, we're actually going to put a pawn right in the center. Boom! We're going to say we control the center. They're going to say no, we take your pawn away. You can bring your queen out. We ignore the fact that we're down a pawn, and we actually play c3. We're offering another pawn trade, but we're already down a pawn. So for the Danish Gambit, this is where black takes, and is what we call kind of a little greedy. This is where black takes as many pawns as they can, so they capture on c3. We put a bishop on c4, and they just keep taking pawns. So now they're attacking both our rook and our bishop, and if they take the rook, they could also promote to a queen at the same time. So we kind of have to deal with this pawn at this point, and we take it with the bishop. So here's the starting position for the Danish Gambit accepted, the Danish Gambit. And we have four, being not one, but two pawns down. We have one bishop, two bishops, and a queen. We have three diagonal pieces which all control a good portion of this board, and they're all aimed towards the king side also, besides controlling the center. Our queen's got many places it can go. It can go to b3, f3, h5. It can all focus on the f pawn. Our king is already one step closer to casting than theirs. Basically, they have nothing developed. They've only moved one pawn, and we have two bishops and a pawn developed. That's supposed to be our compensation for the two pawns we've given up. Basically, though, one bishop, two bishops, and a queen, three diagonal pieces. White does not want to trade these pieces at all. Don't trade them. This is our strength. This is what white uses to cover a lot of territory. If black can get their king castled safely, they're winning. They're already up two pawns. But this is all about it being an aggressive opening and attacking. All right, so if you want to play this, I definitely say go for it. It's great to learn how to attack in chess. It's very spicy. And let's just see the quick game that played just to show you how quick. This is a 12-move game. So, very common. Black will check, right? Get a bishop developed with check. We block developing a piece. They bring the other knight out on f6. Very natural because they want a castle. We actually bring out our knight. We want a castle too. And we're offering, believe it or not, yet another pawn. Our e pawn is not officially defended because this bishop pins the knight. We're actually offering another pawn. We have four minor pieces developed and they have two. All right, let's finish this up. They take the pawn. We're looking at what happens when our opponent is very greedy. We castle out of the pin, trade, 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 and look at our bishops. Look at our queen. We still have everything aimed towards the king side and controlling the center. Black has so many pawns, though, and they castle. But now the game is actually over. These bishops are just way too strong. First move, move number one. Can you pause the video and find it? Well, we got queen g4. We're threatening checkmate on g7, our bishop over here. And how do they stop it? They actually don't have any great ways. They block with a pawn. Queen to d4, setting up this battery, and here black actually just resigns. Any move black does basically is going to be checkmate on h8 or g7. The f pawn is pinned thanks to this beautiful bishop at c4, and black wins in 12 moves. All right, let's go to the next one. And now we're going to look at the next spicy opening, and this is called the Scotch Gambit. Again, e4, e5, three pieces happy for both sides, control the center. And we bring our knight out this time. We're attacking their e-pawn. The most natural way for black to reply is almost knight c6. Almost every time you'll see this. So we have a lot of options here as white. With the Scotch, not the Gambit yet, we haven't offered a pawn, but with the Scotch, you put another pawn in the center. It's kind of like the Danish Gambit, except we've already played knight f3 and they played knight c6. But we're trying to put some stuff in the center, and we say to black, hey, we're controlling the center. What are you going to do about it? And we have two things attacking their e-pawn. All right, the most natural reply, which is done the most often, is e takes d4. Now, if we're playing the Scotch, the actual Scotch game, we would just capture back with our knight. We would control the center by having our pieces in the center. That's one way you can control the center. But here we're playing the Scotch Gambit. So we're actually not taking the pawn back, but we're accelerating our development. And notice this beautiful bishop aims at the f-pawn. You'll find many openings. This is the case. Beautiful bishop. Now, we could also get our pawn back at some point. Maybe it's not a true gambit, right? This pawn right here, we have two attackers on d4. They only have one protector, but it is black's turn. And why do we offer this accelerated development? Why do we offer this pawn? Is this really truly a gambit? Well, the reason why I like the Scotch Gambit is simply when we play e4 and they play e5, these pawns are now stuck in mud. They can't move forward. We want our e-pawn to have threats and go forward and expand towards the king, especially if they play knight f6. So by getting this situation, whoops, too far. By getting the situation, we've moved our pawn to, I gotta get my kitty out of the way. Kitty. We let our e-pawn able to go forward. They've captured, and now if they try to play something like knight f6, we can go forward with e5 with tempo. And by expanding forward, we actually take and control a lot of space. All right, so this is the basic starting position, and I've played this many times. The black has several good responses. Many beginners simply develop with check, kind of like against the Danish Gambit. Why not bring a piece out with check? And in this particular game, they block c3, they captured on c3, we captured with our b pawn on c3, and if you take a quick count, white has 6 pawns, black has 7, and this was a gambit. Now the bishop has to run away. In this particular game, this can show you how quick, if black plays wrong, white can win. They play an awful move, awful. Bishop e7 is actually just a losing move. After queen d5, and we have this powerful battery aiming right for checkmate on f7, black's already lost. Now, the only way to stop checkmate would be to move the knight to h6 for a moment, but we would just capture that knight, and we'd be up at least a full piece, maybe still with an attack. But here, in this game, played d6, gave the king some room to run, and didn't run for long because it's still just checkmate. Very quick game. All right, let's get to the next spicy opening. And this brings us to our Evans Gambit opening. This is one of my favorite openings to play. Got some great history of this opening because it was named after Captain Evans, who was a captain of a boat out of England that actually delivered mail back in the early 1800s, 1820, 1825, and he developed this idea of this gambit and played it all the time. He loved chess. He loved being a sailor also. And he actually would hire people on his crew who played chess, and he would get to play a lot of chess at sea. And he loved it. So in this particular case, bishop c4, bishop c5 seems normal, and it is. This is great development from both sides. And here is the Evans Gambit proper, b4. And with b4, this is offering the pawn. This is the Gambit, Evans Gambit, named after Captain Evans. What white is trying to do is that bishop on c5 is helping control the center, right? It's aiming for the f-pawn, it's controlling the center, and we're trying to get to remove it by it capturing a pawn. If they just backed up to b6, if they run away from this pawn to b6, well, we've got a free move and we can keep going forward. As a matter of fact, our b pawn could just go to b4. That would get more space, leave the e pawn undefended. So pretty much black is almost obliged to take this pawn. This, boom, capture allows the next move. Notice we're doing this by force. b4 attack the bishop. Now we're going to play c3, which again attacks the bishop. We've given up a pawn, but now c3. Small pawn move supports large pawn move. We're going to be playing d4 very quickly. And with our pawn on d4, our pawn on e4, and a supporting pawn on c3, we have a beautiful center for white. And we have some open lines already. Our dark squared bishop can go to a3 if needed. Once we play d4, our dark squared bishop can come out to go to g5. We already have our knight at 2 spots away from the f-pawn, bishop aiming at the f-pawn. So this is pretty good, and we can castle. Always very important if we can get our king safe quickly. So I love gambits that do that. Again, our queen can go to b3, battery towards the f-pawn. And when our pawn goes forward to d4, there are a few times our queen can go forward and do the battery where the queen's in front of the bishop. All right, let's see what happened in this quick game. Well, the bishop stayed back on the diagonal towards the king, went to a5, and white went ahead anyway. Even though the c3 pawn is pinned, went ahead anyway and said, I'm taking the center. Black captured, white got out of this pin on c3, and I do believe that at this point, black realized they better get their king safe. And is this a good move or bad move? Well, boom. Knight went to g5. It's almost like a delayed fried liver for those that know the fried liver. Our knight's aiming for the f-pawn along with the bishop. That's a pretty dangerous attack. They castle thinking they're safe. And then after queen h5, we can already say that perhaps white has already have a one game. That can show you how quick these type of games can happen with gambits, if the black player is not prepared especially. But we have our queen aiming for h6, knight aiming for, h7. Queen aiming for h7, supported by our helper knight. So there's only one way for black to stop checkmate, and that's h6. We take the f-pawn with the knight. We're attacking the queen on e8. They could play rook takes f7. That actually probably is the only true move here to continue playing if they really wanted to keep playing. But they take the queen. We take with discovered double check. Bishop is giving check. Knight's giving check. So the only move is for the king to move somewhere. In this game, they went to h8. Knight went back to f7, discovered check again. You don't see that often, 2 straight moves of discovered checks. And that unleashes the queen along the h file. And boom, queen attacking king. King hides back on g8, and queen to h8 checkmate. Now, you're not often going to get these kind of quick wins, but it is nice to see when they do work, because it does show you the power of these spicy openings. One more time, let's take a quick look at the 3. The names are, number 1, Danish Gambit, number 2, Scotch Gambit, and number 3, Evans Gambit. So one more time, why do we play a gambit in an opening? Well, you don't have to, of course not, but you want to get something for it. And these 3 gambits, I do believe, get accelerated development, control of the center, and it can be a lot of fun. A lot of spicy fun. It will develop, if you use these openings, it will develop your attacking skills, which would be very important as you get better as a chess player. I would say that experience is the best method. So start using them. You don't have to know every single move, and just get some experience, have some fun, get a little bit better. And if you have any questions, let me know. Usually like to end all my classes, as you guys know, with a joke. So here's a quick one, just a quick one. Why did the bubblegum cross the road? Well, this is a pretty hard one because we all know why the chicken crossed the road. Chickens are famous for playing chess. They love chess, and they crossed the road because they saw them playing chess, but that's not the bubblegum. Bubblegum doesn't like playing chess. So why did the bubblegum cross the road? Well, the bubblegum crossed the road because it was stuck to the chicken's foot. Ba-dum-bum. All right, guys, this is Coach Aaron. I'll talk to you soon. Be good.